I would define a sex toy as a external device because I mean, my fingers could be sex toys, my mouth could be a sex toy, your cock could be a sex toy. The couch could be a sex toy. But I think in the world of sex toys, it's some sort of like external device. I would say apparatus, but that doesn't sound sexy. And something that we utilize for pleasure. It doesn't have to go inside of you. It can be external, internal. It can go in your ass.
What about a pleasure enhancement tool?
That sounds really
Can we go with that?
Ooh, it's a pet. Pleasure enhancement tool. PET.
Yeah, it's a pet, okay?
But not your animal.
And it doesn't have lungs or a brain to breathe. It's just a pleasure enhancement tool.
Ooh, let's bring that in. Trademark.
Okay.
No one take it.
Yes,
It's ours.
That's it. Done.
Yeah.
This is the Man Up Podcast, the doctor's guide to men's health. Each week on our podcast, we interview the top specialists of the field on various topics in men's health. You have questions that you are too afraid to ask, we have the answers. This week, our episode is titled, Sex Toys Are Us, Incorporating Sex Toys in the Bedroom with the Shameless Sex Podcast. I'm Dr. Kevin Chun. I'm joined as always with my co-host, Dr. Justin Dubin. Justin, happy Easter to you, buddy.
Happy Passover to you.
Easter Passover, you know?
You know, we're all celebrating something in the last week. This is coming out obviously after Passover, after Easter. But congratulations to everyone. It was a good holiday run.
You know, it was a good holiday run. You know, it's what do you mainly do during this time period? I just want to know, because I'll be honest, like, Asian family, we really don't, we kind of, we recognize, we observe and all that stuff, but besides going around grabbing the eggs from the out in the yard and all that stuff, there's nothing else that we really do. How about you? What do you guys do?
I mean, I just had Passover dinner at a friend's place. And then we're recording this on the Thursday. Right. So we just finished Passover dinner. The night before, I had Passover dinner with my grandpa in Boca and my family. So, it's just a lot of eating. I love Passover. Great food, matzah ball soup.
I love matzah
ultimate
soup.
Comfort food for me. It's great. You have a little brisket, you have a little chicken, matzah. It hits, man. It works every time. I love it. So it's one of my favorite of the Jewish holidays. Easter, I don't do anything. I just, another day for me. But sounds like you're enjoying. Is your son gonna do some Easter egg hunting?
Yeah, I think we're gonna try to get that set up. But he doesn't understand the rules or really understand what's going on. It's just running around the yard kind of thing. Just running around the yard. Just passing time.
I feel like you just throw a ball and you're like, oh, just go get it. It's fine.
Son, dog, it's all the same thing, dude. No, I'm just kidding.
That's awesome.
Anyways, on a this week's episode was awesome.
A completely different note. We were just talking about religion.
But yeah, no, this week's episode it was awesome. We were joined by some awesome guests. They have their own podcast. Justin, why don't you kind of introduce them, kind of tell them, who came on our podcast?
Yeah, so this week we had some really special guests. We had the Shameless Sex girls on, Amy Baldwin and April Lampert. They're the co-hosts of the Shameless Sex Podcast, a podcast that really inspires and radical self-love, sexual empowerment, and shame-free intimacy. It's really one of the most popular podcasts in the world, actually. And beyond hosting the podcast, they're both incredibly knowledgeable in the sexual pleasure and sex toys industry. Amy was voted the 2022 Sexpert of the Year and is a sex and relationship coach. And April is the vice president of Hot Octopus, a pleasure product company, and was previously voted Woman of the Year in pleasure products. So we brought in the sexperts to talk about sex toys. Now, sex toys is such an interesting concept because I think a lot of guys think that when they think of sex toys, they only think of like dildos and sex toys for women. But as we will learn, there are a lot of good, fun sex toys for men. But we actually work with them in a medical way, and we talk about that too.
Yeah, and one of the also things that we talk about is how, I will maybe speak on behalf of a lot of guys, but there's some taboo that kind of surrounds sex toys, right?
Yeah.
Justin. And so, that's one of the things we talk about. And you touch on a really good point. Like sex toys use in the medical community, that's kind of more of a thing that is being, talked about, and, improving quality of life, improving, relationships. And that's a lot of things that we explore in this episode.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to an analogy I made in the podcast. You can almost in many ways see a lot of these toys increasing your sexual pleasure as a Viagra or a Cialis, where you're kind of enhancing your sexual experience. We talk about cock rings, we talk about constriction bands, vacuum erection devices. We go into other vibratory toys. And it's a really insightful thing. And if you're out there and you're trying to explore new fun things, I think this is a great episode for
you. I learned a lot. I know Justin learned a lot, and there's just a whole array of them. Just like how Justin said at the beginning, most guys will think like, all right, dildo and whatever the women are using, but there's a whole array. Justin and I had a lot of experience and training with cock rings, but using the right way, as we'll learn in this episode, they can be used right and used for pleasure.
Right. And all these things, it's important to use them thoughtfully and use them considerately, considerate of yourself, considerate of your partner, consensually. These are all important ideas. But in general, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this episode because let's be honest, these girls are great. I've been on their podcast twice already. It was about time they came on ours. And I know Kevin and I were planning to go back on their podcast as well, but they're just awesome people. They've become really good friends of mine. And I think we should just get into it at this point. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode.
Sounds good. Let's jump into it.
As doctors, you can usually find us in scrubs, but when we're done, we still want to wind down in a nice, comfortable pair of clothing.
Luckily, we found Cozy Earth loungewear, designed with soft, durable, temperature-regulating bamboo viscose. It is the most comfortable clothing we have ever worn.
The matching men's joggers with the pullover crew have become our go-to outfits for travel.
We love Cozy Earth so much that we've teamed up for an exclusive offer for our listeners. That's right, you get up to 35% off the entire site when you use the code MANUP.
So if you're like us and want comfortable, stylish clothing, check out Cozy Earth and use our promo code MANUP.
All right, so let's get this party started. So we're going to jump into our first question for Amy and April here. So first question for all our guys listening, what is a sex toy and what kind of sex toys are there?
What is a sex toy?
I don't know. We can't answer that. I'm just.
I've never seen one before.
I've never seen one.
What's a sex toy, April? I don't really know
I'm
what
so
a sex toy
scared.
is.
I'm scared.
Yeah. I would define a sex toy as a external device because my fingers could be sex toys, my mouth could be a sex toy, your cock could be a sex toy. The couch could be a sex toy. But I think in the world of sex toys, it's some sort of like external device. I would say apparatus, but that doesn't sound sexy. And something that we utilize for pleasure. It doesn't have to go inside of you. It can be external, internal. It can go in your ass.
What about a pleasure enhancement tool?
Oh, I like that.
Can we go with that?
I like that.
I like that. Pleasure.
Ooh, it's a pet pleasure enhancement tool. PET.
Yeah, it's a pet. Okay,
That's good.
But not your animal.
And it doesn't have lungs or a brain to breathe. It's just a pleasure enhancement tool.
Ooh, let's bring that in.
Okay,
Trademark.
and
no
like
one
there's
take
like
it. It's ours.
there's
That's
like
it.
a million
Done.
different kinds, right? Is it broken down into categories of some kind? Just for guys to understand. They walk into a store like, I want this kind or this kind or this kind or this kind.
Absolutely. And it's a great question because people sometimes get confused if they walk through a sex shop and things are lumped together by brand, because when you're shopping for things, there's toys for penis
Right.
owners, right? So this is the Man Up podcast, so toys for men. But we try to keep it non-gendered
Absolutely.
as often as we can. So toys for penis
course.
owners, toys for vulva owners. So that can be internal or external. Then there's toys for people that have butts.
Pretty much
so
everyone.
That's everyone. Just in
That's a
case
lot
you're
of people
wondering.
out there.
Yes.
That's a lot.
And then there's also categories within the categories, so subcategories. So you could have in the vulva toy category, you could have G-spot toys. You could have toys that are for dilation. And then you also go into toys for couples, right? So couples typically meaning like I have a penis owning person with a vulva owning person that come together and want to experience a sex toy together. And then there's what, BDSM and
BDSM,
kink stuff.
Yeah, and then in the cock world, we have what is known as the
Yes.
pocket pussy, but like that. So a masturbator, that was
We
a
would
I
definitely
have
Like
all
the
know
fleshlight.
that.
Yes, the
Yeah.
fleshlight. I might own one or two, Kevin.
Oh,
Hey, I'm just smiling. I'm just smiling. That's
just smiling. Well, but even within that, and we'll let you all ask the questions. But within that world, and then there's also cock rings.
We know
and then-
very
then
well
we
about
talk
cock
prostate
rings.
toys. There's so many ways to see.
Yeah,
Then
we,
there's
we know
also-
a lot about cock
Yes.
rings.
Oh,
We
yeah, you
definitely
do.
know a
Yeah,
lot
you
about
would.
cock rings.
Yes.
unfortunately
Yeah,
emergent
more
situations,
so than other.
but they can be,
Yeah.
as long as they're used right, they get
They're
caught,
very good for
they're good for
pleasure.
pleasure and stuff.
Yeah.
They're good for couples play and for solo play. Then there's also subcategories within lube, because lube always has its own section when you shop, right?
The
there's
silicone,
water-based,
the water-based.
exactly.
The
Right.
oil
And
based.
then there's
dildos that don't even vibrate.
dildos. So dildos, people are like, oh, this dildo I had. Typically, a dildo is
Correct.
a phallus of
Right.
some sort, right?
Insertable.
And it's insertable. It could have a suction cup. So that isn't typically a vibrating apparatus. It can have a small vibrator. But then there's also harnesses. So strap-on gear, if people want to wear something to penetrate or help them penetrate, that's another subcategory.
And then we have sexual wellness, like Kegel or Kegel. We say both, tomato. So things like that for strengthening the pelvic floor. They're usually for vulva owners, although there are some cock versions of that, but
Mhm.
usually done anally. And yeah,
and then there's
yeah.
the pumps. The
pumps. I
You
want
want
the
to get
pump.
pumped, like because they're penises. Some folks want to either elongate or do some things with their
Right.
cocks, and penis pumps they're not necessarily for pleasure. We can't speak for all humans, but they're a device that you can use to
Someone's going to do
help
that.
with the blood flow situation. So that wouldn't be something that you go to for pleasure, but you could go to that for other aesthetic reasons if you'd like.
All right. So that was a really great answer. Obviously, there are so many kinds of sex toys, but I think for a lot of guys, what they don't understand is that when guys think about sex toys, they often think about solo play. And you obviously alluded to it in a big way here, that sex toys doesn't mean just self-pleasure. This is a thing that you can do as a couple as well. Can you kind of just give us an example of like what situations? Are there specific situations, or is it just, for whoever wants to get more aroused and get stimulated? Who's a good person to use a sex toy, as in couple play?
A candidate?
Most people.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone that's over
Everyone.
the age of 18,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Legalities say over the age of 18. So, Amy, what do you think?
So I think that, again, as I said, most people, and we think of sex toys as a bonus or something that enhances things. So, and there are some people that have a hard time having an orgasm or feeling
Right.
pleasure. And also sex toys can really help to warm your body up,
Right.
relax your body, which is really important for sex. Warming and relaxing is very important. I'm not talking about like temperature warming, although that could be nice too, but we're talking about like your body, your arousal is going, the blood's flowing. And so sex toys can be really helpful for that. So if you're having challenges with that, but also if you just want to spice things up and add a newness or a bonus or a sense of variety, maybe you've been having some really awesome sex and it's been the same sex for like 2 or 3 or 5 or 20 years, and you want to add some sort of variety to that, something different than what you've been trying. Maybe it's a fast lane type of variety where you're trying a new sex toy, or maybe just trying a new sex toy. It feels exciting to you. Like, what is your thing about the cars? Like, you walk to work, or
well, this is the thing. It's 2023 when we're recording this podcast, and I specifically have been the VP of a predominantly penis toy oriented manufacturer, and we make high end sex devices for penis owners.
apparatus.
Apparati. And what I say, because people, a lot of dudes, when I tell them that I work for this company, Hot Octopus, it's awesome, great product, sexy, but they're like, why would I need a sex toy when I have Rosie Palm here, my hand?
Exactly.
Right?
That's what a lot of guys think. Yeah.
And I'm like, right.
I would
and
say
when
that's about like 90%
Yes,
of
yeah,
guys would
correct.
think right off
Exactly.
the bat
So
like that.
I'm good.
So
Okay.
what I say, the thing is, and this is also true for women out there, vulva owners, you can walk everywhere, right? You can walk everywhere and it's nice. You can get a nice pair of kicks and get there eventually. However, if you have a nice car, a nice ride to take you, you can get there in style with ease, and it can make the journey a lot more pleasurable. And it
sold.
is 2020, so why not jump in your
Kevin's
ride
been
and
married
let it
for
take
a
you?
couple of years, like 10 plus
Oh,
years now.
yes.
I'm just saying,
So, like, the question of like who should try sex toys, that is like, I mean, for Shameless Sex Podcast, our number one demographic are people in long-term relationships.
Mhm.
Because when
Oh.
you're in the new, fresh relationship, the walk sounds nice,
You're like,
right?
I don't need those.
Yeah.
sex
We're good.
toys.
It's all new and spicy. But when we hit a point of, and not even just that though, like, I mean, I'm someone that will bring sex toys in from day one. I'm like, well, let's bring out the
Me
sex toys.
too.
And then also 6 months, 2 years in, I'll be like, let's try new ones. And same with April. And I think the long-term relationship folks, sex toys there's so many ways to spice up a sex life. It doesn't have to be with sex toys. There's like millions of options. And sex toys are a really wonderful, easy, sexy,
And they're
hot
accessible.
way.
They don't take a lot of creativity or imagination. You're just getting a box full of different items and trying each one out to see what benefits your situation sex and your hormones, all of it. You both are doctors.
We know.
You're doctors. Things change in your
Mhm.
body. So
Oh, yeah.
why not give yourself the opportunity to experience pleasure, even if your hand isn't working anymore like it used to? Why not try something else? Maybe try a prostate massager, or try a cock ring that you could throw on your either your shaft and your balls, that are going to help
Mhm.
maybe help hold the blood flow a little bit longer, so you have some longevity. Or it adds vibration, so as you're riding and grinding with your
Mm.
partner, your wife, Kevin, or whoever is involved,
Yeah, I
then
hope she's not
they
listening.
get
Whoever.
some,
Yeah, whoever.
whoever's involved.
No judgment.
I don't know, but you could also help them orgasm or feel pleasure, because it's not always about orgasm, but feel pleasure as
Right.
you're in your experience.
No, I think it's a great point.
So wait,
Go ahead, Kev.
So wait. I want on that note. So let's say just asking for some
Yeah,
friends here.
yeah.
Let's say you got a couple. They don't really, they don't use sex toys. It's a little bit overwhelming. We just talked about all these different types of sex toys. So from your girl's perspective, like, what's a good one to maybe kind of introduce, kind of start off, maybe like a gateway kind of sex toy?
Great.
So we're talking about specifically for couples to use, not like for a vulva owner or woman.
Yeah, just
or
for couples. Just for
couples.
couples.
Yes. I mean, so
The anal fisting want. No, I'm just
the
kidding.
biggest anal fisting toy you could possibly find. Yes, and it vibrates and also just does all the things.
Yeah.
It squirts on demand.
Get the robot, the
Yeah.
giant doll.
sex doll.
That's
Yeah.
$20,000
Just
for
kidding.
your
We're-
home.
We're kidding
Nope,
everyone.
everyone. That's our sarcasm.
We're
Okay.
silly.
Yeah. Sorry.
I would suggest. It depends, but for a lot of people who are new to sex toys, so let's take for example a heterosexual
Yeah.
couple or like a vulva owner with a penis
Right.
owner. Okay, that's probably your primary demographic. So for a lot of those folks, and they want to bring in something that's a little scary and edgy, going right for the penetration toy or for a toy that is internal and external, speaking to like mostly vulvas, penetrating vulvas, can be a lot. Even some of our favorite couples toys, like the We Vibe, which is a kind of a C-ring that clips into the vaginal canal and vibrates around the spot G area, and then comes out and has another vibrator for the clitoris, could be a lot for people who are brand new. So more so like finger vibrators, bullets. Hot Octopus makes like the Digit, which is something you can wear on your fingers. It's like a finger ring
An
vibrator.
extension of your body.
Oh,
And it doesn't look scary, and it's easy to navigate, and you can kind of play with these things. And they have multiple speeds. That's a good place to start too, because when you have multiple speeds, you can really see what your body likes if you're new to it. But something that's easy to maneuver and navigate, and especially if it looks like cool jewelry like the Digit.
That isn't scary either, because people can get freaked out if the shape is overly
aggressive or
sexualized,
yes,
right?
sexualized.
Phallic,
Right.
or it looks like, oh my God, that's a porn star's pussy right now. I don't want my partner to know that I use that. Or, oh, that looks like a dick.
John Holmes.
Yeah, it's got a huge, it's a 12-incher that's 4-inch girth and veins.
Not everyone's into that. Everyone when we say that, by the way.
Me included. So
Yeah,
if
me
you,
too.
but when people go down that rabbit hole of what sex toy to look for, I would say get something that they're so beautiful. Sex toys can actually they look like a piece of art a lot of times.
They look
these
sexy.
days.
They
And
legitimately look sexy. They're
sexy.
sleek,
Totally.
there's some very, very approachable devices that are small. They're cute. They have like all these little things. And it's amazing with the technology that we also have today that we can really advance this stuff. But I think it's really interesting. And you bring up a great point, in the older population. I can speak for in Miami. Most of the guys that I see who use sex toys, and I always try to bring it up. I always ask, in the bedroom what they're using, or what other devices, if they're having, intimacy problems. And it's always the guys who are in these relationships for 10, 20 years, the guys that, are walking down the street and you're like, that's the guy using a sex toy. So, I mean, it's a really good point. And I think that a lot of those guys, they have no shame about talking about these things, because you're right. It does step up the relationship in many ways. And that kind of brings me to my next question here, which is, I think a lot of listeners who haven't used sex toys in the past, a lot of them are intimidated by them because of this idea that, am I not good enough on my own for my partner? And obviously you've mentioned it as an enhancement tool, but how can you help, or even if their partners are listening to this, how can you help them kind of overcome that stigma and that idea that, oh, let me introduce a sex toy. It's not because, I can't get you off, but let's just change it up a little bit.
But here's one thing, and thank you, Justin, for saying that, because what happens, I've had a lot of really good friends that I had no idea had shame around bringing sex toys into their relationships. They've been married, they have 2 kids or 3 kids, and they're like, my husband won't let me use a sex toy. And for me, that's so interesting, because I've worked with and around sex toys since 2008 for many years, and
surrounded by dildos.
Right, I forget that
we're surrounded by dicks. It's okay.
Stigma.
You're surrounded by you too. All of us.
We are
just different
all.
ways.
I saw a lot of dick today. I'll tell you that.
A lot of dick today. A lot of dick.
dick.
Ours
Long
are
day.
silicone generally, but that's cool.
So what? Yeah, which I love dicks. So if I get all day long, like I love them. I'm happy that everyone here agrees, because the whole mission for sex toys isn't to take away the human interaction or aspect of relational exchanges and intimacy and the connection. There's nothing like flesh, right? To not for everyone. I'm speaking to the folks that maybe are curious, and maybe they are reaching this point in their sex life where they're wondering what else could be helpful. And it's so my message to all of those, usually women, that have said, like, my husband would never let me have a sex toy. First of all, I'm like, letting you do anything is interesting. Like, let's talk about consent. But the other piece is, what if it's something that can enhance your situation? And we've used enhance as a buzzword a couple of times, but what if it improves your experience together? It's not something that you're going to get addicted to, and he's going to find you wanking in the bathroom at 2 in the morning.
You ever want.
Yes, like that. You forgot about me, and you're calling your sex toy on the weekends, like, "Hey, babe, how you?" Like you just can't get away from it. You're addicted. You don't come out of the bathroom for months at a time because you just love your sex toy so much.
Or you have to kind of hide it.
What about if you reframe the shame? Because it is shame. It's shaming to have ideas that the sex toy could take away from your experience. I think, like, if you're in especially if you're in a partnership and it feels that wrong to use something that
you want to use that gives you
yeah,
pleasure.
yeah, that gives you pleasure. And there's no rules there's consent, but there's no rules if your
Right.
orgasm is going to be brought out by adding this very beautiful or maybe it's naughty device, like more power to you. So why not?
Well, and one of the things we say
What do you
here
have to lose?
often is pleasure is pleasure. So
Yeah.
right, so why are we so concerned when our partner has pleasure? Of course, if they're fucking someone else and you're not non-monogamous, then maybe you're going to have an
That's
issue
just
with that.
not cool.
But but if they're having a pleasure from a sex toy, whether it's a masturbator, a vibrator, an anal toy, like, oh, today, hey honey, today I just massaged my own ass with, I don't know, there's some whatever toy they're doing. Like, why is that personal to you? And because you weren't a part of it, because all of a sudden you're not good enough. That's something for that person to look at, I think. Now, if they're hiding it, they're lying. It's a thing that they're
Right.
doing 20 times a day. They're doing it with other people, and
they're
that's
not going to work anymore,
They're-
or their kids are starving and they're just wanking
just
away.
wanking. Then you have
that could be a
something to
problem.
talk about. And I think
And then
that 'cause
someone
you said,
find that
Justin,
device. That's a great sex toy. We should all know what that sex toy
I know.
is.
And it was made by Shameless Sex.
Yes,
of
yes,
course.
yes.
And,
Buy it now.
and I think what you said, Justin, though, you said I think that I heard this right, that some of your the older folks that you
Yes.
work with, they're more comfortable with sex toys.
Absolutely.
And this is a great opportunity to listen to them, because we do see that it's the younger generations, 18 and up, of course, that are still figuring out how to be comfortable with this. And often when you go into places like sex parties or kink communities, or even with sex toys, or people who are really outspoken and outgoing, they are 30, 40, even 50 and like out and proud, because they finally stopped caring about, like, why the fuck did I care so much before about this thing?
Right.
It gives
Or
pleasure.
Why was I ewing something
Yeah.
that was yummy?
Yeah. Listen to your elders.
Even if they're only 5 minutes older than you.
I really loved how you guys actually, describing the sex toy as an enhancement tool. And I think that from a urologist standpoint, when we think about it, it's almost like another form of Viagra or Cialis, right? Some guys are scared to try
that's a good point.
Viagra or
Like it.
Cialis because they're worried they may be addicted to it, or it's, they're dependent,
Dependency.
or it's
They-
not really them. But it's going to enhance the experience for them, for their partner. So it's just one of those things. Kev, do you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, absolutely. These guys always come in and they're always like, hey, yeah, I'm scared to use the Cialis or scared to use the Viagra. I think it's the same thing. And I don't know if for guys, maybe like, is there a stigma maybe against using sex toys? I don't know. Like, maybe. And I think that's something that a barrier that we need to break down,
There's definitely, I think, a stigma there.
Is there something wrong with me?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
what I think a
or
lot of
I
folks...
shouldn't need this.
Right. Why do I need this? Is there something wrong in my relationship? Or if you're single, is there something wrong with me? Why can't I figure it out on my own? That can happen with vulva owning humans too.
Often.
It's
yeah.
yes, it's not just I have that problem sometimes. I'm not going to call it a problem, but shame-free admission is that sometimes I wonder if I can get off with just my hand because I love my vibrators so much, and I'll try and it won't happen because I'm so in love with the vibration of my wand.
The nemesis.
I'm like, it feels great.
Well,
Why do I want to change it up?
I like the reframe of it being like Viagra and Cialis, and then I think they're separate issues, right? Or ways, perspectives,
Right.
because some people just
Right.
are not into pharmaceuticals. They're like, I don't want to
Correct.
take a thing, but they might also be. But there are some people who are fine taking the thing but not using sex toys. So I mean, everyone has their opinions on it. But if we can get over this idea of how things should be and more set on what actually works for you individually, is still consensual and feels really good for you and your partners, why question it?
Can I bring up, since you both are doctors, one other piece that
Yeah.
I think is important to ask you? So Cialis and Viagra, they can be a little bit conflicting of a conflicted pharmaceutical to take if you're on certain medications, like a heart medication or certain, maybe some SSRIs that could be hard on your body or your heart or certain organs. So a sex toy would be considered safer
That's true.
than popping a Cialis or a Viagra. And perhaps maybe a sex toy is more long-term and more affordable, because if folks can't afford a Viagra or Cialis prescription, that also is something to consider. What do you all think about that?
Kev, you want to take that, or you want me to take that first?
I'll give a little input. I mean,
Okay.
look, so some guys, they got all these medical conditions going on that, unfortunately, a sex toy is not going to get them up. So the Cialis Viagra will get them their blood flow and all the stuff that they need. But yeah, no, I think there are definitely some guys who are probably trying to find ways to enhance, which is good, but they think that Cialis and Viagra is the answer when probably their blood flow is normal, right, Justin? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's a combination of things. Like for most of the time, Cialis Viagra is very, very safe. Antidepressants, you can absolutely take it with antidepressants. The only real medication you worry about are like the nitrates, where you have like nitroglycerin under your tongue, where you have like
you've had a heart attack.
If you've like had a heart attack,
okay.
Yeah, and it's not the medication that causes the problem. It's actually the sex. So like, if you're not cleared for sex, you probably shouldn't be. That's the reason why we're not giving you Viagra or Cialis, or you're taking that medication. So, that's what you have to be conscious of. But at the same time, there's no reason you can't use both. You can't use Viagra and Cialis and a sex toy. And that brings me kind of to this next topic. I think that we should talk about when we're talking about, this idea of like cock rings, I think are very important to discuss, because Kevin and I, I have
we've
a lot
seen
of patients.
A number of them.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of things go wrong with cock rings. But I've also referred a lot of my patients to get cock rings, vacuum erection devices. These are very good things that can help your erection if Viagra or Cialis isn't getting you there, and you don't want to do anything else. So you're right. Now, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about cock rings? We'll tell you about our experience with cock rings too.
Okay, I'll open with Amy is a sex educator that is going to help you all understand some pieces about cock rings. But I want to I want to intro Amy, because she is introduced me to cock rings, and that's why I'm like, thank you.
Right.
You did. And you were my gateway drug, Amy, with the cock rings.
Lucky me.
And what I understood, because I never, as a woman that dates men, I never understood the concept of, a cock ring can actually benefit me because there's vibrators attached to some of them. Holy shit, that's awesome. And speaking from the sense of, if you want something simple, not around your balls and your shaft, there are cock rings that are simple that you can just put around your shaft that you don't even, you definitely want an erection eventually, but you can just, if you're a beginner, you can just throw that on your flaccid unit until it has some blood flow. And then when you're penetrating someone, whether it's vaginally or anally, you can actually feel the vibration in your bits, and then they can feel that as they're being penetrated. Now, there's non-vibrating cock rings, which is what I want Amy to talk about. But I have a recommendation after you talk about all the benefits, Amy, because I want to talk about Adam and
Is
Adam
it
Plus.
metal or stainless steel for beginners?
No.
Totally, right?
No.
Yeah, no, it's not. So
Thank God.
Typically, as yes, thank God. We're not going to say that. That's in the same category as people putting things in their asses that shouldn't go in their asses. Like
correct.
A Coke
things
bottle
that don't have a base,
or
Yeah.
a bottle
A
of
toy
Heinz ketchup.
car.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
a
Justin,
little
I've
tiny bullet
seen a bunch
vibrator
of
with no
those.
Oh,
stopper.
yeah.
Yeah, so cock
I
rings.
just fell on it.
Yes, no, yeah, they've seen it. They don't want,
It's
but
a
they won't
great
shame
X-ray,
you.
though. It's
Yeah.
a great X-ray.
Yeah,
Our ER friend told us about somebody putting a Tabasco bottle
Lord.
their bum, but no
Open.
cap. But no
Open.
cap.
Yes. Oh
Oh.
my goodness. Yeah.
People
Yeah,
living
yeah,
dangerous. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, man up. Yeah. So with cock rings, my understanding of cock rings, and I don't have a cock, but I've played with plenty of people that have worn cock rings and sold a lot in my many years, as April's been involved too in the sex toy industry. Meaning at a sex shop that I owned with my mom. So my understanding is there's multiple purposes for cock rings, like April said. So it can create like kind of more, keep the blood there to create a stronger, firmer erection. That can also feel nice, the like constriction feeling. And as April said, the vibrator. But if you were to give like a general way of choosing a cock ring and using a cock ring, especially if you're new, would be, one, if you want the stronger, firmer erection thing, you definitely want to involve your balls in it, meaning like the testicles that are going to go inside of it. So the whole package is eventually on the outside of the cock ring. Don't start with metal. And if you started with a firmer material, make sure it still has some bend to it so you can take it off and not go to the doctors. And I don't mean to scare you, but metal and firmer things are designed for people who really understand the exact length.
You need to know the circumference of your cock.
You have this
and
down
Very
as an
important.
art.
I'm going to say, I hate metal. Kevin hates metal. We don't like very strong wrong things because we have sawed them off people's penises many times.
Yeah.
So go back, continue.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just don't
100% agree
our
with that.
stance is never use metal.
PSA,
Never use
right.
never use hard, thick things.
Unless you're experienced.
Yeah, well,
Unless you're
and we
experienced,
like
right.
metal for like anal toys with a very safe plug. Metal can be a really great material for it, like the Enjoy brand. There's some really great metal G spotters because you can't lose it all and get it stuck all up in the vagina or the pussy. But when it comes to the cock, that's a different story. And anal, everything needs a flange. But anyway, so you want something that, and April said, putting on when you're soft because it's really hard to put something on when you're hard. Ha you see what I did there? But if you have a little bit of blood flow to start, and then some people don't get blood flow, but then and maybe you all can correct me, if you don't get any blood flow at all and it's pretty much impossible, really hard to do, I would never recommend a cock ring to someone. I think you need to get a little bit of blood flow in there, like some sort of something, and it could be very minuscule, but there's some sort of movement of engorgement and arousal and blood flow. And when you have a little bit, then you can put the cock ring on around the balls first, then the cock.
When your cock is completely flaccid as well.
Completely, or like a little bit of blood flow. There could be a little something.
Tiny bit, but you put you would put each
ball
testicle
cock
in first and then put the rest of your bits in.
Ball, I like that direction. Ball cock.
Unless you have one ball, then ball cock.
Ball cock.
So
not
maybe
ball,
you all
cock, ball. Not you don't want a ball sandwich of the cock.
And so doing that, and then once you get more blood flow, then it can keep it there. And if you have a vibrator, like April said, it can enhance the stimulation or the experience for your partner or for you. And there's so many different ones. There's ones that also press up in the perineum, the taint, the kundalini spot in the case,
the gooch on the East Coast,
the ABC, the nacho,
and that can feel nice.
Oh, the nacho! I'm gonna use
nacho
that one.
balls, nacho s.
Nacho, that's nacho ass. I love that. I like. What if it? Well, no, it never is. It's just mine. Okay. Anyway, so that's a couple of different things. So if you're not going with a vibrating toy, a softer, but I'm not saying soft like super stretchy soft. It has a little stretch, but a softer yet firm silicone toy or a cock ring is fabulous. And if you want to add vibrations to it, then that enhances things even more, but it has a little room to give, but it's still tight and not scary tight.
But this is the thing. So sorry, Justin, let me say, because I'm passionate about this particular thing, it'll be real quick, because I helped design the cock ring that our company makes, Hot Octopus makes. It's called Atom Plus, because it has all of the cock rings that I have, I think 14, high end, low end, all the ends, right? And
under your bed.
I felt like all of them were designed by dudes. And I'm like, the clitoris doesn't need like little bunny ticklers that are like kind of hair pullers, if you will, or perineum stimulators that are spreading the ass cheeks apart when they're on properly, that aren't ergonomic at all. So the Atom Plus, it's stretchy, and then it has two motors. So it gives you perineum pressure, and it gives you you can get some testicle vibration because we have a lower motor, and then you have the shaft, and then it puts constriction when the blood flow starts in the bits, in the unit, in your treasure, whatever you want to call them, cack and balls. So when you're penetrating the person, like when I'm being penetrated with it, you can ride on it. It has like an external portion to perfectly hit any, I think almost 95% of vulva owners can receive, because of all of the nerve endings that are on the clitoris. And it becomes an extension of your body. It's not bulky, it's smooth. And so I think that if you want to have a couple's toy, before you try something that is insertable, so your partner's wearing some insertable vibe, try a cock ring. And we have a basic version called the Atom, but that one I helped design because I felt that no cock rings thought about women's bodies when they were on a cock, and they were not cute looking either. This one's pretty.
That's great. And I think I want to explain quickly, like, why guys would use cock rings, because I think we kind of overlapped on that. So, guys, when you're thinking about your penis, you need good blood flow to your penis. And one of the problems that we often see in people struggling with erectile dysfunction is, you have to get blood flow into your penis. But if blood flow leaves your penis too soon or too quickly, guess what? You're going to lose your erection. You want to trap the blood in your penis is really how erections work. Now, some people have issues with that. We call it venous leak is a more medical term for it. Mm-hmm. But basically putting a cock ring on, and also the medical term is a constriction band. it actually is able to trap that blood and prevent it from leaving your penis to give you a harder and stronger erection that can potentially last longer. Now, the problem is, you don't want to use a device that is metal or something that is hard, because one of the things that happens is your penis can get swollen. If you keep it on too long.
Unless you're experienced, Justin. Unless you're
yes.
Super experienced.
Now, how
You're
long?
like,
now,
yeah, like
that was
some-
my question. How long do you recommend you use a cock ring or keep it on for? Because that timing is important, right? Like, you can't keep it on for too long. At least we've seen experiences from this. Because if you think of a tourniquet, if you tourniquet your arm or your hand, it's not a good thing. So you can't be walking around with this thing.
No.
So when you say that though, Justin, I've gone to Folsom Street Fair in San Francisco, which is a whole bunch of naked.
I've been there. I've been there.
Yeah, you've seen this. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are people that walk around, do a whole long walk, and actually not even there, just any parade in San Francisco, there's some naked person with a metal cock ring on. And so they're wearing it they're moving around, but they know that cock ring and they know their bodies. This is not some random that just went to a sex shop and put this thing on for the first time. But my advice would be, you're not going to don't fall asleep in it. Make sure you're conscious for it so you can feel your body, and you want to feel all the sensations. You're not numbing anything, and maybe have a drink or two, but like, you want to be aware and be present, because when we are that, then we can pay attention to our bodies, and what our bodies tell us, this is too much, this needs to come off, it's changing color, it's numb, it's hurting, it's aching, it's throbbing, and not in a positive way, like like a good throbbing. So as long as you're aware for that and you're paying attention and you're conscious for it, then you can gauge it, because people can wear them for sometimes a couple hours, but they are paying attention to their body. And the people I've seen wearing it for a couple hours, they're not rock hard. They're more
That's
so
a great
on the
point.
softer side.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Because it's not fully constricting. Right.
Exactly.
That's why the stretch is important, and getting something with a little bit of stretch, which is why you both had suggested staying away from the metal cock rings, which even the ones that have stretching to the max, like even our cock ring, you can get it can get stretched to the max. You could use a little bit of lube or kind of get out of your sensual erotic zone, so you're not turned on, go into the shower and then slowly release the device on your body. But it's true. I think time is a relative thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 2 hours for someone could sound like a long time. 20 minutes could sound like a long time. So I think what Amy spoke to is a great suggestion.
Well, and the same thing if you were giving Viagra to someone, and isn't there the thing where they have to go to you guys and to get like the blood drawn out because they took too much? And
That's
like,
usually with injections.
Yeah.
Usually with injections.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's dangerous, right? But that's why you don't want to.
Timing
you don't
is
want
everything. You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Knowing and understanding proper usage for anything, there's risks and benefits. And like I said, I prescribe my patients cock rings. We have distributors for that too, that are more medical advice. Yeah.
You have so many cock rings.
Dude,
I should send you ours. You'll love them.
Hey,
Yeah.
send
I
it over.
need to.
Send it over.
I can't believe I haven't already. We even have one with a remote, so you can be like, "Hey, babe."
Oh shit.
Whoa.
Hey.
Wait, but on that note, because like there's so much nuance, or just kind of like, or I don't want instructions on how to use a cock ring. And I think for a lot of guys that are listening, they're probably pretty blown away that there are so much intricacies to it. So maybe this is a really dumb question, but let's say you buy a sex toy, and how do you know you're using it right? Like, does it come with like a manual, an instruction booklet? I don't know. Is there? I don't know.
Absolutely. And
hopefully they
people,
do.
I learn when I talk to people, when I'm out in public speaking events and we're talking about sex toys, people will tell me different ways they've used our sex toys from Hot Octopus. They're like, "Oh, I use this for edging." And I was like, I never thought about that toy for that use. So the manuals typically involve functionality more than positioning. However, there are wrong ways or things wrong, meaning dangerous, where they could affect you. If you inserted one of our products into your butt that wasn't safe to use anally, that could be a danger and potentially harmful to your body. However, most things, it's left open for interpretation. It's like art, right?
That's fun. That's fun.
You can use that in many different ways, and that's why sex toys can be really the enhancement or the outside of your typical box of just what's on your body, even though your fingers can be an extension of a pleasure device. It's still sex toys. There are toys though as I'm sure Amy will mention, that are just not safe to put in your butt or aren't safe to use for a prostate
Or even
massage.
put on your pussy.
Can you
Or
give
to
us
put
some
on
of
your
those?
pussy.
Yeah, that's important
Yeah.
for guys to know.
Yes.
Like, what are
Yes.
some sex toys that we should not be using, or like at least for the rectum or anything like that?
Well, some materials matter because the FDA does not regulate the sex toy industry. So when you're
Okay.
buying a sex toy, this is why it's good to buy from either sex positive sex shops online or in person. Or if you can go in a store and you don't know if it's sex positive, you want to be able to ideally feel and smell the toy, because if it smells like plastic or has a scent in general at all,
Like chemicals, if you smell chemicals
yeah,
at all.
chemically, or like it smells like
Wow.
strawberries, this might be harmful to the body, especially for vulva owners. You know, we all have mucous membranes in our genitals, but like we have these really sensitive absorbent ones. I mean, yours are too, but you know, ours are a little more absorbent.
Yeah, I
And,
agree with that.
Yeah, and you could get a nice old rash from that thing, because
Mm.
if it smells like something, that means it's putting out, it's emitting toxins, it's emitting something out of it, and then you can absorb it into your body. And the same would go for an anal toy too. And you want to make sure anything anal is, one, not that it doesn't have a scent, and it's not porous, meaning that it doesn't hold in bacteria, because it's the ass, everyone, it has bacteria.
Yeah.
So if you see threading or strings attaching to
Yeah.
anal
or
beads
rubber
something,
jelly,
I would say use those once and then consider it disposable.
throw it away, or buy
Yes.
something that's made out of silicone, stainless steel, again, not for cock rings, but you know, of high quality materials, hard ABS plastic, things like that are very safe for the body.
And look for medical grade silicone. Even though it's not regulated, most folks will be honest about how they're producing the products, and you want to stay away from the rubbers, the jellies, the things that look like, when they have a lot of the phthalates are the problem, which were banned by the FDA for children's toys in the 50s. They just
Yeah.
aren't regulating the adult toy industry because they haven't had to.
And sometimes you can find nice soft toys, like soft and squishy toys that are not toxic and are high quality. But oftentimes the squishier the toy, the weirder the chemicals that made it squishy could be. But again, the best test for that, if it's squishy and you're like, I like this, is if it has a scent. If it doesn't have a scent, it's probably pretty safe. But then you can also research the company. We won't get into that. But you know, some companies really care about ethics, like Hot Octopus, and other companies, and some don't give a shit. They're just trying to make money off of you.
I think this is fascinating because I would bet a bunch of guys, and now I'm not going to try to bad name, you know, Amazon or something like that, but I feel like they would just
They don't
order something
Yeah.
cheap
It's cheap.
off the internet. It's got fast delivery, and not, you know, when you think about it, you got no idea where it's coming from, and then you're going to kind of
Yeah.
like potentially put it in your partner, and that could cause harm. You know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think that's a fascinating
I think it's
point.
also interesting. We recently interviewed about lube, and we talked about lube, and you know, the scented lubes and like the flavor lubes like are bad for your vagina. We found out, and I think a lot of them, and you know, this is a reflection of that in many ways. You know, like the scented, the plasticky smell. You know, you have to be considerate, because you're right. Like as you said, Kevin said, you know, this is going somewhere where you can be impacted. Your health can be impacted. So it's really, really interesting.
Well,
now
and also
yeah,
like an air on that. Just I'll just make this quick.
Yeah,
Would you put an air freshener on your cock or in your pussy or in your ass? You know, something
Fuck
that smells
no.
like flowers that you put in the wall. Some Febreze, maybe. I don't know.
Some people might, however,
It's
it
probably not good
won't
for you.
end
though.
that well eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that's a great analogy. We talked about some partner stuff, but there are solo sex toys for guys out there, and you know, we alluded to like the pussy pocket, and you know, the fleshlight and all that stuff.
Pussy pocket.
Is that
Pocket
wait?
pussy-
Is that
I like pussy pocket.
Should we talk about the fleshlight?
I like
think we
that.
should
I like
talk
the way
about
he said
the
it.
fleshlight.
I want to know more about these. Like, obviously, those are popular ones. Are there things that we should look for, not look for in those products? And are there other ones that we can explore that we don't know about as men or penis
Look,
owners?
you all are doctors. I basically have a PhD in penis sex toys. Okay.
Yeah.
If they gave one out, I would already have it on my wall, totally framed, because this is what we specialize in, Hot Octopus. And I'm not just, this is not an advertisement for Hot Octopus by any means.
Check
However,
out Hot Octopus. I don't care. Go check it out. She's
Yeah.
got great products.
Yeah.
You
check
can
it out.
absolutely
Yeah.
check it out. We
Absolutely.
have a
I'm gonna
small
check it out.
curated
Yeah.
line. It's I call it the Chanel of sex toys. A lot of times times, even though it's much more affordable. And if you are turned off by Chanel, sorry for you, but hello. But you can think of it as, I don't know, Gucci, whatever the fuck you want. Okay. Something nice that is
it's like Chanel
curated.
You can afford.
You can, yes.
Yeah, you can
and
afford the Chanel.
It's researched and developed, and we care about, we of course care about the humans using them, but we're not mass producing something. And with penis toys specifically, our products, so we have this thing called the Pulse. We've actually been on the Today Show, and I mean, GQ has done pieces on our products, and I mean, we've had so many mainstream media associations because of how awesome our products are that I can't even list them. We've been only around since 2013. The founder, there's two, but one of them has a penis, and he was an avid masturbator. He loved wanking. He's British. They're both British. I'm the only American really that is over there. And he loved wanking and was surprised to find, since a young age, he was like, I love frenulum stimulation. Frenulum is one of the most sensitive parts of the penis. There's about 6,000 nerve endings. It depends on what research you read.
The frenulum is the part, guys, for if you're looking at your penis while we're talking about this, it's the part that's underneath your, like where your pee hole is, that connects to like that little part of the skin on the bottom part of your penis. That's kind of the frenulum. There's like a little band there.
It's
Continue.
Like
I apologize.
Of the cock.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, thank you. This is exactly what I was hoping you would interject with. So I like to look at it because I'm a vulva owning human. I'm like, that's like the clitoris. And it makes so much sense because a lot of masturbating men, they'll use fleshlights, and you can stick your hard cock into this soft vulva or anal looking device that looks like a large flashlight, hence the name, and you can masturbate in it and then orgasm and ejaculate inside of it, and then move on with your day. And Adam, the founder of Hot Octopus, he could not, there was shame in that for him. He's like, I don't want to masturbate in something that looks like a pussy. I'm married. I love my wife's pussy, but I love frenulum stimulation. And so he was using a bullet vibrator and a sock and a rubber band for years. And he was like, this is not what I want. So he found, because he wanted focused frenulum stimulation, the only device available in the world, and he was looking all over the world. He'd go into sex shops in the early 2000s. The only device in the world for frenulum stimulation was being used in the medical side in Denmark specifically, and they were using this on folks with spinal cord injuries, that people that couldn't have erections at all. And so what they were doing was they tested oscillation and oscillating devices at specific amplitudes. And at a specific amplitude, 62% of the patients tested over a 5-year period could ejaculate, so they could collect the specimen and implant it into their partners, and they could have children. I don't know how many of those had children. That's not my fucking business. But what I do know is that, yes, probably a lot of them. But what they found was not only could these folks that had spinal cord injuries, that had no use of their cocks, not only some of them found it pleasurable. Now, it wasn't talked about because it was medical, but Adam found this company, bought one of these things. It's called the Ferticare. You can still buy it today. It's like 2,000 euros and still used on the medical side for the same purpose. Now there's at-home Ferticare usage, but we licensed this oscillating technology in our products. Now, it's not, so the Pulse products have this oscillating pulse plate, but what we did, Adam, since he's like this professional wanker, he'll love me for saying that. I'll send this to him. He'll be like, April, sometimes I love you. But he designed the product so it looks like almost like a glorified large taco shell, and then it has the oscillating pulse plate at the base
on the bottom,
so you can use it hands free, and you can use it flaccid to semi-erect to totally erect. It can help you have multiple orgasms. Even if you have any sort of erectile issues, it helps with blood flow, and then you can stroke with it if you want to use some lube so you can orgasm. And it's not like a fleshlight because it doesn't look like a butt, a mouth, a avatar vagina, or some sort of porn star's
vagina one's been like a big seller, I think.
It's beautiful.
Well, I mean,
Avatar 2 is pretty great.
I hear about it.
It's great.
Everyone wants to talk
Justin's
about
like,
Avatar.
go ahead and buy that Avatar
It
vagina.
speaks to you in
no
Navi
shame
as
that-
well. It
Yeah,
talks to you in Navi.
It's like you just click your tails together.
Yes, I'm synced in. So that's what. So this Hot Octopus, we really revolutionized penis toys, and I'm passionate about this because I feel like we've really changed people's lives. We've changed people's lives that don't have to pop a Cialis or a Viagra to have erections or orgasm. Those things are not they're not simultaneous and they're
Correct.
not necessarily always related to each
And
other.
don't have to
Very
have
important.
erections to have an
Right.
orgasm, which I think
Correct.
is
Right.
also very important because you don't
Completely.
we're so like hard cock centered, which I think is great. I love a good hard cock, everyone. And I think that if that's really hard for you, you can't go there, but you still want to have pleasure or ejaculate or get someone pregnant. There's so many options for you, and sex toys are a big part of that.
And edging's a huge thing now too. So this can take it up and take it down. If you want to learn how to edge, you can be like, whoa, 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 whoa. So that can help you, whatever. People have feelings about, we've talked about it before, Justin, when you've been on our
Yes.
show about
Yes.
edging and I could do without it or I can live with it. But
Was that when we talked about the
blue
Botox
balls
for balls?
and,
yeah,
yeah.
the blue balls.
Botox
Yes.
for balls? I got a lot of hits.
We
on
missed you
TikTok.
there, Kevin. Next
Sorry.
time,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah,
Next
join
time.
us on our
Next
show.
time.
But you know what's really cool about the story you told us, and Kevin can attest to this, because we actually have a very unique training experience at University of Miami,
Yeah.
where we have a major spinal cord center here, where Kevin and I actually, in our training for fertility and sexual health, actually have worked closely with a lot of spinal cord injury patients. And we know that this vibratory, exactly what you're
Peanut-
saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kev. Like we've fertilized guys. We've helped extract sperm.
We've had
through it.
guys who, they're, vets who are, whatever, they're paralyzed, whatever, got spinal cord injuries. And yeah, you can use these either penile vibratory stimulators or electroejaculation, essentially
Ooh.
massaging the prostate with some, electrical
Electrodes.
pulses. And yeah, it's causes ejaculation,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
So did my pitch
so-
make the doctors? Were you like giving me a gold star? Did
Gold
I get
star.
how many
Gold
points do
star.
I? Okay,
5
good.
gold stars.
Yes. Oh my god.
Nailed
Yeah.
it.
But it's
Nailed
also
it.
a great point, because a lot of guys don't think, like, they think female vibration and, they think
Right.
about that for, clitoral
Right.
stimulation or things like that. But it's actually the penis as well. And a lot of spinal cord injury patients get only aroused through the vibratory sense. And so, that is an extra angle of sex that maybe a lot of guys haven't explored yet, and they may want to explore. So it's a really cool point that I'm glad you brought up. And it's science, data driven stuff that's a real deal. So that's really
Well,
cool.
that's what we say. This is where science meets pleasure. That's sort of where Hot Octopus has, and we have many other toys that are designed, but we always think outside of the proverbial box, if you will, meaning we don't just recreate the same sex toys over and over again. We use things that are outside of the adult industry and we put them in and innovate, and then we patented. So you cannot find any other. We license the technology from this medical device company that's still in business. And then we're not allowed to make medical claims because we're not a medical device company.
Correct.
So just FYI. However, all of our research is the same research. And outside of that, we have we innovate beautiful products, and it takes us forever. We only have 13 products in our collection. However, each one is it's thought out, researched. We use real bodies, real humans, and we care about the materials and the motors. So that's really important.
And I think that we need the connection with this, bringing the sex toy industry and the medical industry, even outside of Hot Octopus, but in general, they need to come together and not have them these separate worlds, right? It's either health or it's pleasure, and there needs to be more conversations about the marrying, meshing the two in some way where they work together, because they work hand in hand. And this is a big problem. It's a big problem in the education system. Like you get comprehensive sex education. It's all medical and like, here's what not to do, instead of like, here's how to have an orgasm and, like take care of your body and masturbate and all these things. So how can we bring them all together in a better way? And a lot of sex toy companies are starting to do that.
There was that great article our friend Dr. Rubin wrote in the New York Times about talking about maybe doctors need to start prescribing sex toys, right, Justin?
Yeah. And there was
this
this recent paper that came out by them showing that, there is a role for it in female health and sexual health. And the bottom line is sexual health is health, right? Like all of these things that we're talking about are important for everyone to know, because if you want to live your best, most satisfying life, these are ways in which you can do that. And part of that, and what we're clearly exploring here, is by using these toys, you really have a better understanding of your body. You have a better understanding of your partner's body, and you're able to enhance that experience. Things you like, things you don't like. Maybe you're having pain during sex, and this was now being highlighted that you didn't know before. Or maybe you are having some kind of ejaculatory problem, which maybe you weren't really trying to figure out before, and this new thing explored that, and you want to go figure out why these things are happening. A lot of the times with sexual health, both, penis owners, vulva owners, it's one of those things where, it's either a sign of potential health problems to come, or it's a potential it's a side effect of some other health problem. So, there is a lot of things to consider here. And it obviously these things are very fun and we want people to enjoy themselves, but there is thought. It's obviously you guys put a lot of thought about it. And that's part of your podcast too, is, you're always highlighting the sexual health related stuff in sex, and it shouldn't be stigmatized. These toys shouldn't be stigmatized. And it's just really cool that we're having this conversation. And it's really fortunate that, none of us give a shit. We're having this conversation. It's fun. It's not like, ooh, like sex toys, whatever. Who gives a shit, So that's
I want to say one last piece though, because I don't want to stray away from, we talked about solo pleasure with what Hot Octopuss offers, and we've talked about cock rings, and I want to say that technology though, with the Pulse, what I mentioned with the Pulse products for solo play, we also make one for couples, so it incorporates vulva play, so you can use it as like a foreplay. So if you're with someone and your cock isn't responding how you want it to, maybe you have delayed ejaculation, or maybe you want multiple orgasms, or maybe you just want to try something new, we have something that you can wear on your penis, and then your partner could do some missionary style and grind on it. Then when your cock responds, however it responds, you can remove the device and go into whatever interaction you want to, or you can do like cowgirl style where the woman's on top. So we have other avenues, because I think that is the reason I switched and started working with Hot Octopuss, because of the couples, that toy, because I saw it really helping people that hadn't had the ability to have the body connection with their partners, because a soft cock couldn't be played with in the way they wanted to use it. Does that make sense? It can, but I'm saying people can kind of have those associations, and that's a Pulse Duo. So I wanted to say that because we haven't talked about anything that could be used on a penis with a vagina that isn't basically taking out the hard. Yes. And our products are not just for people that have spinal cord injuries. They're for any penis owner.
Right.
Oh,
correct.
My partner loves it. My partner's like, so I had a good morning with the Pulse today. Yeah. And
it's just, that's the benefit.
Send
so
me
anybody,
that link.
It's awesome. Yeah. We'll see.
You two should prescribe some Hot Octopuss now. Just prescribe that right
you
on
send
your
me some
homework.
pamphlets. You send me some pamphlets.
I'll send you some samples. Just send me some addresses.
I would just be stoked if I went to the doctor and they said your homework is to go home and have more pleasure and masturbate. I'd be like, you're a great doctor. Thank you for that.
Yes.
No, I think we both want everyone to have those sex. Yeah, you're right, Kev. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
well, can I come to you guys? Will you be my doctor?
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
100% for sure.
That sounds a little proposition, a little sauce right there. I like it.
I think. I think I do want to just conclude with one final idea here, because, this idea of being approachable in a relationship, we mentioned it before as an enhancement, but obviously, we've discussed all these great ways in which sex toys can be used, the different kinds of sex toys, but if it's either, and we have, vulva owner listeners as well. So,
right.
Can you give us a final recommendation for, in these couples, if you're a guy or if you're a girl, how you approach your partner in a way that's, not intimidating or not stigmatizing, so that everyone can get involved in, some kind of couple sex toy?
If you don't use this, I'll leave.
I'm out. Fuck you. So I would one suggestion I have is so it could be because they're listening right now if they're hearing this. So I listened to a podcast, or I went to a sex shop, or I talked to a friend, and I learned this. I learned about these kinds of toys and how toys could be a bonus in the bedroom, and they can actually enhance things. We don't have to use it all the time, but I really would like to try that. What do you think about it? Are you into going to a sex shop together to learn about them? Will you listen to this podcast that I just listened to? We're essentially saying I know about this. I'm interested. I'm here, or it's like, here's my fantasy, but it's not. Sex toys aren't always a fantasy. It's just, I want to try this thing. So I'm interested in this. Are you not? You have to do it with me, but are you open to exploring that as a bonus that could just make things hotter? And it doesn't mean that there's a problem here, but you don't have to end with this part. But you're just basically, and it's saying that you want to have the shared experience. And I think here's one thing about sex and relationships that we often say at Shameless Sex. When you're proposing something to someone, if you propose it as a problem, then we might have a problem and a defensive person. But if we're coming into it saying, I'm proposing this to you because I want to have all of the connection. The connection is already great, but how can we make it even greater, even more fabulous and more connected and more juicy and more orgasmic? And here's what I'd like to try. Are you into it? And what are you into as well?
I like that.
And April's like, and
I'll take them all.
We're breaking up. Yeah. If you don't do this, I'm out. Yeah. No, she would say.
I would never say that.
No, she would never.
And I think that Amy, yes, I think that the shit sandwich, as I call it,
shit sandwich.
Where you put the compliments, the shit's in the middle, but the compliments are the bread of the sandwich.
Yeah.
No one. I'm not condoning eating shit, but I'm saying like you sometimes eat the shit because you need to flub everything if you want something to happen sometimes.
You just made my proposal sound like shit, bro.
What?
The shit sandwich is the formula where you give a compliment followed by the word and followed by the request, which is essentially what I did. And
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make your thing. I thought it was perfect. I was like, it's a shit sandwich. I know that
Just don't tell your partner it's a shit sandwich when you say it to them.
It's a compliment sandwich. You can call it a compliment sandwich.
Yeah.
Okay? But that's already trademarked.
Or just call it, do you want to try some sex toys or what?
Stephen Covey, I think, from the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People talked about the compliment sandwich, and
it works.
It works every
really
time.
well.
I think it will work.
I have no idea.
Yes. Like, hey, we're doing things great, but I need some deep anal fisting, and I love you.
Are you into it?
You can always end with "I love you." I think it's going to work.
Yes.
Every time.
It's going to work.
Yeah, because the worthiness thing is a real thing. So it's, like if the reassurance thing, and you can make it really simple. It's not like you're great, you're wonderful, don't worry, there's nothing wrong. Just I love you and I love the sex we have, and I would also love to try this. Are you open to it?
Perfect.
There wasn't even shit in there. I would have been like,
no, that was just positive vibes. That was just positive vibes right there. But all right, this was amazing.
This was awesome.
Really appreciate you guys coming on. Where can our listeners find you? How do they contact you? Obviously, you guys are the best in the business. You're awesome podcasters. Tell our listeners though, if they haven't heard of you, where they can find you.
April's number is 555-555-555.
24/7. Call me up. So we're Shameless Sex, and we are on any platform that you want to listen to podcasts on as Shameless Sex, and we are Instagram, TikTok, which we've been taken down a few times, so we don't have a lot of followers because it always changes.
We do on Instagram.
We do on Instagram, but it's funny because they just flag the shit out of us. And so it's Shameless Sex Podcast on those platforms. We actually have a book that will be out November 2023 called Shameless Sex as well. And we're really excited about that. It's helping folks unlock their ultimate pleasure potential, but not even potential, because everyone's pleasure can be found within. It's an incredible book that's been our life's just passion, and yes, we put every ounce of our souls into that. So and other than that, you can follow Amy, and she lives at 555.
My social security number is 555.
Yes, and her credit score is 790,000.
That's pretty good.
And if you're hearing this and you want to learn more about our book, because you don't know if it's out, I don't know, because this is like maybe an evergreen product, go to shamelesssex.com. You can learn more about us there, and it'll be on our social media as well. And our podcast, we do, I don't know if you said this already, but weekly episodes. 2017.
Yes, every Tuesday we drop a new episode.
And Dr. Doobie's been on there a couple times.
I know. Now we have to have Dr. Chu.
That was an excellent episode, the one with Dr. Doobie.
Oh yeah,
we've had two. We've had two now.
Big hit. So you have to come back and tag team Shameless Sex.
Yeah, we'll do it. Little forward action. Little forward.
All right.
Tell your wife first and see if you get permission.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll bring the sex toys, and so will April, obviously. You guys can bring the butt rings.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you guys so much. To our listeners, as always, thanks for listening. You can find our podcast also on any podcasting platform. Download, subscribe, give us a review, 5 stars, comment all you'd like. That's always appreciated. We are also on the Man Up Pod for all of our Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We're on YouTube. Subscribe there as well. Kevin, what's our website?
Website is www.themanuppod.com.
All right. For Amy, April, and Kevin, thanks again for listening. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Bon voyage.